Go and proclaim the good news.
All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking one of the most cinematic, intense, and frankly terrifying narratives in the entire Gospel of Mark. We're talking about Mark chapter 5, the story of the Gerasene Demoniac. But we aren't just doing a surface-level reading here. We're going to dig into the deep historical, cultural, and spiritual realities of this encounter. We'll look at what it literally meant on the ground back then, and then pull back to see the massive macro-spiritual implications. Here's how we're going to break it down today. First, journey to the Decapolis. Second, the man in the tombs. Third, my name is Legion. And finally, St. Bede's allegorical insight.
Section 1. Journey to the Decapolis.
Right off the bat, it's crucial to notice the geography. Jesus intentionally leaves behind the familiar, comfortable Jewish territory of Galilee. He crosses the sea and steps onto the eastern shore, arriving directly into the region of the Gerasenes. Now, this region of Gerasa is part of the Decapolis, which literally translates to 10 cities. This was a confederation of predominantly Gentile, meaning non-Jewish, cities east of the Jordan River. They were really famous for their distinctive Greek-style Hellenistic architecture and culture. The key takeaway here, Jesus has intentionally walked right into a distinctly Gentile environment. He has completely shifted the cultural stage of his ministry. And you really feel that stark cultural contrast immediately. Think about it. Standard Jewish custom, rooted right in Leviticus chapter 11, strictly forbade the herding or eating of unclean animals, like pigs. Yet the very first thing we see is a massive herd of swine feeding right there on the hillside. For a first-century Jewish rabbi, a hillside full of pigs is the ultimate red flag. It's a neon sign flashing, you are deep in pagan territory.
Section 2. The man in the tombs.
The source text paints an incredibly visceral, almost horror movie picture of what happens next. The moment Jesus steps out of the boat, he's met by a man completely subdued by evil. This guy is literally living among the tombs, the realm of the dead. He's possessed by an unclean spirit that gives him this unnatural, terrifying strength. People had actually tried to bind him with chains and shackles, but he literally wrenched the chains apart and smashed the shackles to pieces. No human had the strength to subdue him. Day and night, he's just isolated out there in the mountains and tombs, howling and bruising himself with stones. It is a portrait of absolute, utter human degradation. But right in the middle of this total chaos, as the man runs and falls at his feet, Jesus takes total control. He initiates the spiritual combat with a single probing question. What is your name? And the haunting reply that echoes back isn't just a name. It's, my name is Legion, for we are many. That is a chilling declaration of just how overwhelming and multifaceted this evil presence actually is.
Section 3. My name is Legion.
We really need to understand that word. Legion wasn't just a casual term for a big group of people. It was a highly specific Roman military term. It described a heavily armed, highly organized regiment of nearly 6,000 soldiers. So by using this specific word, the demons are revealing themselves as an organized, occupying force. It dramatically emphasizes the sheer intensity of the spiritual combat going on here. We are talking about military-grade spiritual warfare. 6,000. Just sit with that staggering number for a second. It really helps you grasp the true scale of the demonic occupation tormenting this one single guy. He wasn't dealing with a minor struggle. His body was occupied by an entire army of darkness. But this is exactly where the absolute superiority of Jesus shines through. With a mere word of permission, Christ casts out this massive demonic army. They flee into that nearby herd of about 2,000 swine, which then immediately stampede down a steep bank and drown in the sea. And you know, a herd of 2,000 pigs? That was an absolute fortune in the local economy. But to Jesus, human liberation is worth infinitely more than any economic hit. An entire army of 6,000 completely routed by a single word from Christ. Section 4, St. Bede's allegorical insight. To wrap things up, let's look at a brilliant perspective from St. Bede. He suggests that this one tormented man is actually a beautiful macro-level representation of all Gentile nations prior to Christ. In their pagan state, they lived apart from God, essentially dwelling in the tombs of dead works, enslaved to sin and demons. But through the intervention of Christ, they transitioned to a saved state, cleansed, freed from Satan's grip, and completely rescued. So the single man's historical liberation perfectly mirrors the rescue of the entire Gentile world.
And the visual evidence of this salvation is just so striking. The herdsmen run off, the townspeople come out to see what on earth just happened, and what do they find? The former demoniac, completely transformed. The text says he's just sitting there, clothed and in his right mind. All that violent, self-destructive chaos is totally gone, replaced by perfect peace at the feet of Jesus.
Naturally, the guy begs to get into the boat and stay with Jesus. But interestingly enough, Jesus actually tells him no. Instead, he gives this newly freed man a brand new mission. He tells him to go home to his friends and declare how much the Lord has done for him. So the man goes out and starts proclaiming Jesus' works throughout the entire Decapolis, that massive confederation of 10 Gentile cities we talked about earlier. Jesus literally takes a former captive, a guy completely isolated in the tombs, and turns him into the very first powerful missionary of God's mercy to the Gentile world. And the result? Everyone marveled. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to mull over. An entire legion of darkness was completely shattered by just a single command. If Christ has the absolute authority to rout an occupying spiritual army of 6,000, what unyielding spiritual chains is he waiting to break in your own life today? Thanks for exploring this with me, and keep seeking those deeper connections.